So you're curious about options trading. That's great. But before you even think about strategies or profits or anything like that, we have to go through your first absolutely mandatory lesson. See, today we're not talking about how to win. We're talking about the risks you have to understand before you ever place a trade. Here's how we're going to break it down. First, what even is an option? Then we'll look at the two basic bets you can make and talk about the price of admission. After that, we dive into the hidden risks, the stuff that really trips people up. And we'll wrap it all up with a really crucial idea about what options trading actually is. All right, let's get right into it. To really get a handle on the risk, you've got to understand the instrument itself. I mean, what are you actually buying when you buy an option? And here it is. This is the big attraction, right? The siren song of options trading, the chance for huge gains with way less capital. How? Well, it's all about leverage. You can control a whole lot of stock for just a little bit of money. But you have to remember, that leverage is a very, very powerful double-edged sword. This right here, this is the key. An option is simply a contract. And the most important words here are right, but not the obligation. You are literally paying for a choice, the option to do something later. You don't have to do it, but you can. And that choice, well, it has a price tag and a deadline. Okay, so this contract gives you a choice. Let's break down the two fundamental bets you can make with it. Pretty much everything else you'll ever learn about options is built right on top of these two core ideas. It really is this straightforward. If you're bullish, you think a stock is going up, you buy a call option. That gives you the right to buy the stock at a price you agree on today. If you're bearish, you think it's going down, you buy a put option. That gives you the right to sell the stock at a set price. Simple as that. Call for up, put for down. So you've got this right, but not the obligation. How much does that right cost? And maybe more importantly, what does that cost really represent? The price you pay for that right is called the premium. Honestly, the best way to think about it is like a non-refundable ticket to a concert. And here is the first, most critical lesson on risk. When you buy an option, that premium is the absolute maximum amount of money you can possibly lose. Your risk is totally defined right from the start. And this is a huge but. Here's the catch. Your ticket has a very strict expiration date. If your prediction about the stock doesn't come true by that date, your contract, your ticket, it expires completely worthless. The entire premium you paid, gone. Poof. And that introduces our first huge risk factor, time. Now, this is where it gets really, really interesting. Because just being right about a stock's direction, well, that's often not enough. The value of that premium you paid is constantly changing, and it's being pushed around by these hidden forces that we measure using something called the Greeks. So you might be asking, what really makes an options price move? It's not just about whether the stock went up or down. You also have to ask, how fast did it move? How much time is left on the clock? And what does the market expect it to do next? These are the questions the Greeks help us figure out. Let's look at it like your risk dashboard. Each of these Greeks is a different gauge you have to keep your eye on. Delta is kind of like your compass. It tells you your directional exposure. Theta is the countdown clock. Always, always ticking away value. Gamma, that's your accelerator pedal. And Vega, that's the market's anxiety meter. You can't just watch one, you have to watch them all. Let's start with Delta. It's probably the most intuitive one. This is your basic directional risk. It just answers a simple question. If the stock moves up $1, how much will my options value change? It tells you exactly how much skin you have in the game when it comes to the stock's up and down movements. A really good way to think about Delta is as your options spinometer. It's telling you how fast your options price is changing relative to the stock price. A high delta means you're in the fast lane, moving almost in lockstep with the stock. A low delta means you're moving a lot slower. Okay, next up is Theta, and you really need to see this one as the villain of our story. Theta is the silent killer of options premium. It measures how much value your contract loses every single day just because time is passing. It's this constant, relentless drain on your position. The melting ice cube is the absolute perfect analogy. Even if the stock price doesn't move a single penny, your options value is constantly dripping away because of Theta. And that little drip, it turns into a waterfall as you get closer to expiration. This is the risk of time decay, and it's exactly why you can be right on the direction and still lose money if the stock doesn't move fast enough. Okay, stick with me here, because this is where it gets a little more advanced. Let's talk about gamma. If delta is your speed, then gamma is your acceleration. See, it doesn't measure the options price directly, it measures how quickly your directional exposure, your delta, is changing. Just like it says here, if delta is the speedometer, gamma is the foot on the gas pedal. A high gamma means your directional rest can go from 0 to 100 in an instant. And that creates a massive risk because a sharp move in the stock could suddenly make your position way more aggressive or way weaker than you ever intended. It's the risk of rapid, unpredictable change. And last but not least, we have Vega. This one is so fascinating because it has nothing to do with where the stock price is right now. It's all about where the market thinks it might go. Vega measures how sensitive your option is to changes in the market's expectation of future price swings, something we call implied volatility. The best way to think of Vega is as the market's anxiety meter. When traders are expecting big news or a market shock, that anxiety level goes up, and that drives up option premiums across the board. The risk here is something we call a volatility crush. Imagine that anxiety just suddenly vanishes. Say, great earnings come out. The stock price might not even move, but the value of your option can absolutely plummet as all that fear premium just evaporates into thin air. So, what's the big takeaway here? When you put all of these pieces together, you start to realize that trading options isn't really about just picking a direction. It's about something way more complex. If you remember just one thing from this, please let it be this quote. You can be 100% right about where a stock is going and still lose money. Why? Well, maybe you were right, but you were too slow, and that theta decay just ate up your profit. Or you were right, but the market's anxiety faded and a Vega crush wiped out your premium. Just being right on the direction is not enough. You see, successful options trading isn't about having a crystal ball. It's about actively managing all of these competing forces. You're in a constant tug of war with time, with changing speeds, and with shifting market emotions. Your directional bet is just one single piece of a much, much bigger puzzle. So I'll leave you with this question. The next time you look at an options trade, ask yourself, are you just looking at how much you could make, or are you looking at your entire risk dashboard? Are you ready to manage direction, time, speed, and volatility? In other words, are you actually trading, or are you just gambling?